So today, after some 30 plus years of using software and 3 decades of using the internet, I had an epiphany. Today I learned what software engineers really do, or did, and why so many really high level programmers and engineers are having an existential crisis right now. I also had a major breakthrough with this whole agentic thing because in this epiphany that I had about what software agents really do and why, or engineers, and why they have been so well paid over the last many decades, it's one thing to use these things and be like, oh, well, AI is going to take jobs. It's another thing to understand at the core level why, which now I do. And the truth is that most things don't require AI agents. This was something I learned today. And in fact, the majority of what I've been doing or trying to do is completely redundant using an agent, because I can, it's hard to explain this clearly, but I get it now. But it's like if you hire a world-class chef to come to your kitchen to make you food that he already wrote the recipe for. Like, he's not being creative. It's just following a recipe, which you can say, well, but the chef's going to put some art into it. So maybe that's not the best example, but the reality is if the chef follows the recipe exactly, then you also could follow that recipe exactly. That's what you're doing when you're using an agent. Even if you're tying it in with Claude Opus 4.6, which just came out today, you're doubling the work of Claude, because you're paying way more for API tokens than you would be simply on the max plan with Claude talking through the LLM, because the LLM is significantly higher limits than the API. And so for most things, you don't need an agent, you need a script. You don't need a 24-hour agent, you need a cron job. These are all, if you're in software, forgive my naivety. I have been a front-end guy for my whole life in terms of like web stuff. And now I get it. But I also get why there's such a threat, because Codex just came out. We have Claude Code, and now OpenAI just dropped Codex a couple days ago, which now I understand I'm going to actually go sign up for, because why not? You get tons of free credits for 30 days and you can build stuff. Like Lovable, before I started doing this before I started doing this video, I just received an email and just opened it, and it says, we're now on Claude Opus 4.6, which I've been using all day. So now I don't even have to double my work like I've had to do at times over the last 8 months of using Lovable, because I can just talk directly to Lovable. What's the point of asking in my LLM, hey, this is what Lovable thinks, what do you think? And then we correct things with Claude or whatever. Like, no, you don't even have to do that, because they're using the same brain. Now, is there some danger there of so much centralization in thinking with Claude running everything? Anthropic is running essentially a lot of stuff on the back end, on the code side. Sure. But we're not talking about risks and dangers, and no, I'm not even going to talk about conspiracy theories with any of this. It doesn't matter. The point of this is, how can I exponentially increase what I am doing over the next 30 days? And the realization today is, well, geez, I'm having the agent, the reason I'm running into limits and the reason that I've had to fix a lot of these things is because I'm having the agent do way more than is necessary, because it's doing all of the thinking. And what's the point of that if I already have Claude? Like, I'm having these conversations with my agents, but I'm still spending time trying to get it to think just like Claude already does. So why not just say, hey, Claude, this is what I want to do. write me a very specific plan that I can give the agent to go implement. And sometimes it says, okay, here's a plan. But I can also say, if the agent's not needed, then write me the script, write me the Python script and the cron job so that I can just do this myself, or it'll do it automatically if it sees a file land in my Google Drive or wherever, file on my computer. It'll automatically run the script and take these actions online that I want it to take. So I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart to all of you programmers and software engineers. But also today, Karpathy said, the guy that invented the term vibe coding a year ago on, I guess 2 days ago, February 2nd was the anniversary or something. So today he was talking about, I like the term agentic engineer. So that's what I'm going to call myself from now on. I'm an agentic engineer. I'm no longer a vibe coder. And the funny thing is, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but at the same time, it gets real, because anyone that's able to interface with AI and get the most out of it is now on the same level playing field because of these tools as someone who's spent the last 20, 30 years doing the actual programming. Now you might say, that's BS. I mean, the top people in Silicon Valley are saying that. It's not just me and my opinion. When 99% of the work is being done by Claude Code, and Lovable is using Claude Code, is there really a difference? Because now the front end vibe code designers are actually maybe more important, because the tools are there to do it, and whatever I want it to do, it will do. So I can just say, I want it to look like this, I want it to act like this, I want it to do this, and it'll figure it out how to make that happen. So I'm not trying to start a war between engineers and vibe coders or whatever. Like, we're all equally screwed in the long run. But I think it's interesting that I would have this epiphany as things are just exploding in growth and falling apart. And I made a video like a month ago for TikTok, and I was like, the age of the gatekeeper is over. Whether it's information or, because you went to school for extra 6 years to get your PhD in something, you no longer have the monopoly on being a gatekeeper with that information. And it's a level playing field if someone is willing to dive in and figure out how to use these tools to the maximum. I mean, I guess you'd need a modicum of intelligence as well, but it's really about agency. High agency people and generalists with a lot of experience in a lot of different things. I mean, it's an exciting time to be alive, but I think this window is going to close pretty quickly. The other thing is, as I've been saying for a while now, I think the window is going to close because it's going to be about the haves and the have-nots. I don't see this just getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to where it's free and everyone has AI and blah, blah, blah. Like, everyone has the internet too. And most people use it, the entirety of human knowledge, to make memes of cats and find recipes or something, or to shitpost. And so we're not a serious society. I don't see how everyone having access, like OpenAI is like, well, we want everyone to have access to these tools. So that's why we're doing it for free. Like Sam Altman's on X, like fighting against the Anthropic Super Bowl ads that are going to come out. Or they already came out online, but they're going to be played at the Super Bowl, which really make fun of OpenAI putting ads in GPT. He's like, that's disingenuous, and we would never do it the way that they're saying that we're going to do it, and we want everyone to have access to AI. And it's like, well, everyone's had access to search engines. Everyone's had access to the internet. Everyone's had access to Wikipedia and all of the, ResearchGate type of sites that have all the scientific studies. Um, and yet, how many people use that? Think of how many, like all the books that are on Amazon and on the Google Library thing. So this is going to be another thing like that. And I think over time, like the best models, the best tools are going to become prohibitively expensive. And there's no manuals. You just have to basically figure this out right now. But the reality is that like agents are cool, but now I realize like, I don't need an agent for most of what I want to automate because I have Claude Code, and I'm going to see what Codex does in comparison, because I like to put these things back and forth against each other. I'm not going to just trust one model. I mean, that's why I've jumped over the years from different ones. I've used them all. Maybe not all of them. I haven't used all the Chinese ones, but I've used like the big four: GPT, Grok, Gemini, and Claude for a lot of stuff. And as one gets better and pulls ahead, like I start using that more. Why wouldn't you use the best brain that's out there? So what I've learned today is that most of what I want to automate seems like an agent might not actually be necessary, which is why SaaS has existed. Oh, geez, I feel so like naive and just, this is something that I just took for granted, and I always was like, oh, it's a tool, it works. Any technology sufficiently advanced is no different from magic, right? And since I've never been a programmer, I've never really looked under the hood at like, how does all this work and how could I do what all of these companies are charging me $29 a month to do? Is it possible that I could figure it out myself? And until recently, probably wasn't, honestly. I'd probably be way out of my budget. I would need to hire an engineer to build it or whatever. And if the engineer was capable of building something that, $1 billion SaaS was offering me, then that engineer would probably do their own startup, or they were probably working for somebody. So it's like, it wasn't really possible until now. And now, because we have access to coding tools that rival or are better than the world's top programmers, I mean, now anything's possible. And so I think this goes back for me to what I said yesterday or the day before. If you are just looking to set up an AI agent because you want to be lazy and you think it's going to make you rich by doing all the thinking, that's probably not going to work. At least not yet. There will be somebody that eventually sells people that tool, I'm sure. Someone will develop like sort of a SaaS AI wrapper that's like, hey, we'll sell you agents that'll do whatever you want. And I think that that's probably already happening. I guess that doesn't really motivate me, even though it would probably be very, very profitable. But these are just tools that, honestly, I might end up using Claude Code a lot more than using an agent to tie into the back end on Claude Code, which is expensive and hits limits all the time. And then just figure out some tasks that are not things that a script necessarily would work to do, and that I will need an agent to be doing. But the rest of it is like, I'm not trying to retire and stop working forever and just let my agents think for me. I just want to maximize my efficiency. I want to 100x my productivity. And I feel like AI is already doing that in a lot of ways, because I can research and create and understand things so much faster already, just from the last couple of years. Like it gets better and better and better. And now it's much, much more accurate and less hallucination. But if now I can just code the scripts that I want, and I don't need to depend on, OpenClaw as agents to do these things, because really what they're doing is they're just doing the thinking and the strategizing. And it's like, you tell your agent to go do something, well, then you're paying for that on the back end with API. Whereas you could now go to Claude and say, this is what I want to accomplish, research it, spit back, you know, exactly a plan, details for how to do this. If there's a script that needs to be written, write the script. It's like, is that not an agent? And then if there is something else that, you know, can't be done with a script or a timer or whatever else, then I'll figure that out. But this was sort of an eye-opener for me today. And now I'm going to have to really reconfigure things. Because the idea of an AI agent is like super cool. But also if it's not cost effective, if it's not scalable, and if it's not as efficient as simply writing a script to do the same thing and do the thinking in a much lower cost LLM, then it's a fun toy. Just like the graphics programs Mid-Journey in like 2023, 24, just like GPT still. I mean, they're fun toys, basically. They're tech toys, but they're not like truly productive tools. So now the question is, for me at least, where is an agent more cost effective and more efficient than just writing a script with Claude? So that'll be what I work on tomorrow, day 5.